October 15th, 2019, Wayne County Board of Commissioners meeting. This time, I'd like to ask Commissioner Aycock for invocation.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for all your many blessings. Thank you for giving us the opportunity and the privilege of serving the citizens of Wayne County. We ask that you protect the citizens of the county. We live in such a turmoil this day and time. Seems like things we wonder why some things happen. And we ask that you be with everyone and keep them safe. We ask for you to be with our leaders in Raleigh, that they make the right decisions for the whole of the state of North Carolina. And in Washington, the same. We wish that we had more cooperation sometimes, but it seems that a lot of people have self-agendas on both sides of the aisle. We just ask that they can agree on issues for the betterment of this great nation of ours. We ask that you be with our men and women in uniform, especially the ones that are deployed, that are in harm's way, and be with their families back here at home that worry and pray for them every day. We ask for you to be with our first responders. They have a very difficult job, regardless whether it's fire, EMS, law enforcement. All of our first responders are having more and more challenges every day. We ask that you be with them and keep them safe. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Please stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get approval of the October 1, 2019 minutes?
So moved.
Motion made. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify, raise your right hand. Commissioner Honeycutt, any discussion or adjustment of the agenda?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, thank you. We would like to walk on under our consent agenda, which will be number 10, a motion to establish a public hearing on November 5th, 2019 at 9:30 a.m. in the Commissioners' meeting room to receive public comments on a request to rezone 152 acres of land at the intersection of Pecan Road and Mitchell Road from airport AP and residential agriculture to heavy industrial and light industrial in the Brogdon Township as recommended by the Planning Department and Planning Board.
Does any board member have any discussion or adjustment?
And also, as we discussed in the agenda meeting, we would like to remove number 8 from consideration under consent agenda.
Okay. Any board commissioner have any? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion made and moved. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, please signify, raise your right hand. Thank you. Mr. Honeycutt, now we have special presentations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have Aaron Stryker here, who is our Emergency Management Director, and Aaron gave you an update after Hurricane Dorian about kind of some of the nuts and bolts of what happened. But one of the things I really appreciate what he did, we sent out questionnaires to our participants, to the municipalities, to our departments, and asking what we did well, what we could improve on, and Aaron really compiled that and really did a good after action on that, and Aaron would like to present that to the Board of Commissioners, his findings. Thank you.
Good morning, gentlemen. Just to recap with Hurricane Dorian, we did end up getting lucky with that as the big winds ended up pushing out to sea and east of us, so we were spared the heavy damages. With that being said, it was a good learning experience for me to kind of see how the county responded for this and to get an idea of what the Emergency Operations Center, how that was run. So like I said, I put out requests for after actions and did get a lot of feedback from the different participants. Overall, they were saying communication was much better coming from the county and coming from the Emergency Operations Center and OES with regards to updates. The only critique we had on that actually came from the city of Goldsboro. Tim Salmon noted that municipality stakeholders were not getting information. That was corrected by adding all the municipality leaderships that same email chain, so they were receiving the same information that you all were receiving. So going forward, when those emails go out with what the county's doing, the situation, they'll be receiving the same information so we can get everybody on the same page. Additional feedback also reported that the Emergency Operations Center, the setup for it was working a lot better in past events. They just had 2 long tables set up. I transferred it over to working stations. So we had all of law enforcement at one station, all EMS and fire at a different station. The reasoning behind this was so if a situation presented itself, that group would be able to work amongst themselves before they had to request state resources or before they requested for me to request state resources. So that setup was reported that it was much better before. So going forward into the new center, we're going to maintain that setup. And then as far as special events, we did have that one confirmed tornado down the Marmac area with some minor damages, luckily no injuries. Our first responders down there, the fire departments, reported quickly to the EOC, the response actions that they were taking, and then we were able to send, the OES was able to send a representative down there so we could provide information to the National Weather Service. Shelters, we had great cooperation between OES, health, social services, and the public school districts on figuring out what locations we were going to use and when we were going to open and close them, and facilities did a great job of getting that equipment there. Now, as far as for areas of improvement, we saw continuing to update the overall emergency operations plans for the county. I have solicited the county departments for their input and their advice, so that way we can put together a more comprehensive plan. Number 2 on there was the acquisition of shelter trailers. We're very early stages of this, of trying to figure out exactly the details, what's going to go on them, where we're going to deploy them, how we're going to deploy them. So that's going to be between myself and our shelter group, which is going to be health, social services, and then facilities who's going to need to move the trailers. And then the last one for consideration for the new building, or for the old building, hopefully we don't have anything that we're going to, an event that we're going to need to use the old EOC, but going forward with the new EOC is rest areas for personnel in our emergency operations center. The Salvation Army and the YMCA both reached out and said that if we had first responders or EOC personnel that needed just kind of a break to get away from the center, that they were offered up. What we don't have is a dedicated area for rest within the building in case conditions warrant that they can't leave the building. So that's something that has to be taken into consideration moving forward. So overall, I said it was a great learning experience. We were spared some heavy damages of what it could have been, and continue to move forward using this after action and the input. We'll get better.
Aaron, one question.
Yes, sir.
You said that you had a request for the city that they were not getting the information on a timely manner or whatever. Did they not have a representative in the EOC?
In the EOC, yes, there was a representative from the Goldsboro Fire Department and police. They were in there. I'm talking about the prior to standing up the EOC, the week leading up to the storm. Those emails and those notifications that you were all receiving, they were not at that time.
Okay, just want to clarify that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And just comment, I appreciate you moving forward so quickly on this report.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it.
Yep. So a lot goes out to the participants for getting back to me as well. So.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Next, we do have our Health Director, David Madden, here, and he will discuss a recent grant we have received from East Point with respect to initiative for opioid use and combat. So I'll turn it to David.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. As Mr. Honeycutt said, I'm really here to make you aware of an opportunity we've had put before us and taken advantage of. We recently had an opportunity to apply for a grant with East Point, and we have our East Point representative, Vanessa Hill, here. She's happy to come up here and talk with me if you have any questions. The grant was East Point's county initiative for impact of opioid use and/or whole person integrated care. It was a grant up to $50,000 award. And when we looked at the grant, we wanted to do two things to see this benefit of this collaborative. First of all, we wanted to show and find ways to better collaborate with East Point from the county side, working through that model of trying to get the funding into the community to help with this epidemic. The second thing was really to continue to try to build on the successes that we have already done recently in the past year through CALM, which is the Coalition of Addiction and Life Management, which is basically it's a community task force that was built up from remnants of a previous substance abuse task force to work with stakeholders, law enforcement, healthcare providers, public officials, private providers, the school system, and many other community stakeholders to work as a total wraparound care against the opioid crisis. In this grant, we basically put in for 3 legs of service, building upon what we've done and then adding one new feature to the community, hopefully. Building on what we've done is continue to fund a portion of our overdose prevention coordinator. As many of you know, you have to have a person or persons, and when this stuff is, it's complicated, trying to learn all the different avenues of how opioid or substance use disorder impacts the community, families, businesses. Just general upward momentum of people. All of it is just suppressed when they're challenged with use disorder. So having a coordinator in place to really help to pull together, help us create MOUs, look at resource availability, lots of grants, but a lot of them have unique deliverables. Looking at that, working with the initiatives we already have in place, as well as continuing to build on our strategic objectives to combat opioid crisis. The second thing, leg, I talked about the 3 that we're continuing to do, this building on what we have, the success is working with a sub-grantee 4-day movement. And that's really providing peer support specialists. Now, the benefit to the peer support specialist is having peer support to work with people dealing with substance use disorder. They're familiar with the problem. They can speak the similar language. There's less defensive response. They can help link people and families to critical resources. They may be the person that person calls at 3 a.m. In the morning that says, hey, I want to go get high. Help me. And they can help them. They can say, let me come pick you up. Let me carry you somewhere, or let's just talk to me. So peer support specialists have been shown to be an evidence-based intervention strategy for communities. So we're going to fund 1,044 hours a year, which is about a half-time equivalent of a peer support specialist. The benefit of that grant to this, that I want you to make sure, Commissioners, that you understand, is right now there's peer support specialists in abundance here in Wayne County, but of course everyone has to have a payment source. They charge for their services. Through this grant, which will not be, we can't do it indefinitely, it's not sustainable, but it can help us, I think, penetrate into the problem by getting to people that just do not have the money to pay for peer support specialists that can help them, support them, get them connected in resources, and hopefully serve as that intervention point. And then lastly, the third thing is the thing that's new, and this is called Shatterproof. Put in about $9,000 in that $50,000 grant to purchase an evidence-based curriculum and set up a family support hub somewhere within the county. The location has not been determined, and bring in a licensed clinical social worker to work a couple of hours, 2 times a month with families that's dealing with this issue, whether it be a spouse, a child, even a friend, could come in and to learn more about the resiliency of interacting, knowing where the boundaries are of how you can enable too much by your help. You can, there's been a saying is you can love a person in drug addiction to death. To know where your boundaries are, but also to know how to help people, to recognize signs and ways and to help get people into intervention strategies. The key thing here is understand that if you're a suffering person with use disorder, The key thing here is remember that one failure does not mean you failed. It may take 6 failures, it may take 9 failures. But those failures are what it takes to hopefully get a person back into recovery eventually to become that productive citizen in the community that their family wants, we want, and everyone wants. Just one last bit of note before I turn it over for any questions. I looked at the data on the OD map this morning before I came over here to get real-time data. I wanted to share with you just really how big this problem is. Since September 1, what's that, about 40 or so days ago, we've had 20 overdoses. Okay, 20. That's almost one every other day. 2 of those have been fatal. 11 of those were not fatal because naloxone was used as an intervention response strategy to bring a person out of the overdose and so they can get further assistance. 9 of those 11 were multi-dose naloxone. And that's one thing we're doing now in the county as the health department, working with COM, getting this Narcan into the hands of the support groups that can administer Narcan, the police officers, our sheriff's deputies, they carry this stuff too. And so I think EMS carries it as well. That's right. So, I mean, it's important because this may be your child, it may be your friend, it may be that person laying on the floor, and that immediate response of getting that Narcan administered could make that difference between the statistics of being a death or simply an overdose. And then 7 were unknown on the data. It didn't know whether naloxone was administered, but they were not fatal. But so that was 20 total in the last 40 days. So this is a huge problem that we're dealing with, and we're glad to have this grant. We're glad to have some collaboration with East Point, and I hope that we are successful in what we're trying to do, and we'll continue to look for more opportunities and better mechanisms to try to tackle this problem as best as we can from our side. And I know the community is trying to do that as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
you mentioned the Narcan. Have you got a estimated figure? What is it costing the county to supply this Narcan? I mean, just a wild guess.
Well, Commissioner Aycock, I can tell you that for the most part, it's not costing us anything right now, in a large chunk of it, because we're getting it donated through some different agencies like harm reduction and the injury and disease prevention branch. We're getting some donations coming in from different areas, but I know that I think it's a two-dose container can run anywhere between $20 and $60, and you can get it over the counter for people that are dealing with it, that don't want to reach out to areas where. And one of the things that we're trying to do is do more of community outreach with harm reduction groups to go out into community and hand out a 2-dose package of Narcan to someone who's dealing with, because it doesn't really do any good to give it to a person, let's say, that's homeless, that does not have a support function around them, because if they OD and there's no one there to administer Narcan, it does nothing. But to put it into a community or component where a person has a support function, some level, whether they're living at home or whatever, that's where it saves lives. So 20 to 60 for I think a 2-dose package.
So
Does that
it's
sound right? Okay, if they went to a pharmacy, said it's closer to 100, so it must
Okay.
be going up based on demand.
so at some point this could be very expensive.
It could be, yes, if we start trying to purchase it and supply, but I don't really know the total figures of how many doses that the county has given in the past month. So I mean, if it's 10 doses, that could be $500. If it's 20 doses, et cetera. I mean, I don't know exactly, but yeah, I mean.
And I don't want the public to think that, that a dollar plays into it, because if we can just save one life, I mean, it's worth what the cost is.
Absolutely.
But my point is, at some point, if it's going to start costing the county a lot of money, we're going to have to get that money from somewhere. And other programs may have to be cut, because, it's all about saving someone's life. But I just can see in the future that it could be very expensive.
It could be. I mean, I think right now that probably the amount of money going into it is probably, minuscule compared to really the outcome. But you're right. I mean, if we can't get ahead of the problem,
Right.
it could we see surges of it. Yes, sir.
Dave, are you getting a lot of repeaters, people, you've had to bring out with Narcan, and you go back and have to do it again and again and again?
I think
The
there's.
point I'm trying to make is the fact that they know that's out there, it almost,
Well, the data doesn't really show that it becomes a means for people to take higher risk. There are some that's going to do that. With every population where you have supply intervention things, you're going to have people that's going to take advantage of it. There's always that percentage.
I mean, I've heard of Narcan parties. I have.
Yeah, they do. They happen, but I think the frequency and the dramatics of it far exceeds really what the reality is.
Yeah.
I think by and large, having that out there is so much more fundamental from a public health prevention strategy. I don't have a problem with it. It goes into the same issue with like the syringe service programs. When I first started looking into that, I was kind of against it. As the health director, I saw it as an enabling function. But as I read and studied and looked more into it, I realized that the intervention strategy for disease transmission and life-saving far exceeded a little bit of where you're going to have people that will take advantage of the program.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you guys for your time and appreciate you supporting us. Anissa, would you like to come up here and be introduced? I'm sorry, I said that, I thought she was going to come stand up here. She opted not to, but now I got to call her to the carpet. She has no choice.
Good morning.
Introduce yourself to the commission.
My name is Vanessa Hill. I'm a nurse, and I've worked with East Point for 18 years. I'm in the Community Relations Department, so I'm the face for East Point for Wayne County.
Vanessa's very active in a lot of the groups that we work in. She brings representation. She is present when we have requests and issues. She does within the means of her scope to try to help us out as much as possible.
Well, I know she's here at every meeting, so I appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay, next we have public comments time. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak before this board? Just state your name and address and phone number.
My name is Ravonda Jacobs. My address is 1300 North George Street. My contact number is 919-221-5839. I'm coming here today because I want to speak on behalf of our community. The last day of the fair, we had a young lady, Tizaya Kelly, who was punched in the face by a local sheriff. I've been a resident of this community for 38 years. I, too, have been a victim of policemen's conduct over the years. I have had the police run in my house and try to shoot me. I had them come and try to shoot me in front of my car, and I've had them throw me on top of a car at the age of 16. I had no drugs, nor had I committed a crime. So I'm coming here today not to complain, but to ask for solutions. Like Mr. Aycock said before, the question is why. I understand that our officers are going through as much trauma as the people in our community. So even when we look at the situation on Saturday night, that officer had to deal with almost 3 fights before he had to deal with that young lady. So in his mind, he was already traumatized by what he had went through. So I'm not blaming him for punching her, but I am saying, how did it get there? How did it happen? Because she actually was innocent. She wasn't in any of the altercations that night or any of that. And if we listen to the audio on the tape, which they did not provide, so that's another issue that was kind of hurtful, because our sheriff department was not transparent in the community and having the conversation. We don't want a problem, we want solutions. In the audio, the young lady did state, she asked the officer, "Why are you handling my brother like that?" And he said, "Because I can handle you like that too." And then he snatched her arm, and then she snatched away. She was not being defiant from the beginning, she was questioning. So if we can't ask questions, how do we get understanding and understanding of each other? He could have answered the question instead of maybe taking his control a little bit out of order. So then that causes hopelessness. That causes the drug addiction. that these people are talking about right here. So when you're looking at our community and you're wondering, why are so many people overdosing? It's a level of hopelessness. Because even the people in leadership are not willing to listen so we can find solutions. So what we're here today is to say, first of all, our sheriff department shouldn't have demeaned that young lady and made her seem like she was wrong. She wasn't wrong. She wasn't. But he was wrong. There were some things she could have done different earlier, but can we have that discussion before you demean an 18-year-old and make her feel like she can't tell the truth? And then to lie to our whole community? So I think the conversation is, because I came here before, nothing can be faced. Not everything faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced. And I came here a long time ago and asked you about the same things when we had the riots at the Noose. When I dealt with the police, I stood before this board and asked about conversations or programs we could have to help our police officers and our community. So it takes 25 acts of positivity to retrain the psyche of the human mind. So when an officer has dealt with trauma all day, he might just hurt an innocent person because he's traumatized. So what programs are in place? I talked to the sheriff, there's only 24 hours of trauma training for them. That's not enough. So I think if we're really looking at making our city the best it can be, and yes, every life is valuable, but the working people of our community's life are valuable too. So when are we gonna really look at, and even in the school system, there's resource officers. I'm gonna take the whole 4 minutes. There's resource officers. And that problem starts there because one of the things the sheriff talked about was the unruliness of the children and the things that they have dealt with over the years and why they need resource officers in the schools. So all these things are connected, and we really need to look at them and stop being scared. There's no shame, blame, or guilt in this situation. As you see, it's serious. We just need to find out why and get solutions. So we would appreciate some transparency and conversation with the community and the family, because it's not about suing the city. It's about solving the problem, because it happened to me 10 years ago, and it's 10 years later and another young lady is getting it done to her again. So we haven't solved the problem, and it's something we do need to face. Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, public comments time is now closed. And we're ready for a 9:30 hearing. Mr. Honeycutt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our first public hearing is a rezoning request to receive public comment on a request to rezone a 2-acre tract of land just north of 5413 North US 117 Highway, identified as tax parcel 360-421-8232, from residential agriculture 20 to community shopping in the Pikeville Township. And I'll turn that over to our planning director, Barry Gray.
Good morning. This request, as mentioned, is for 2 acres. It is a request from RA20 to CS, which is community shopping. And if you look at your map, and of course it's up on the screen as well, this is right across from Charles B. Aycock High School on 117, if you're familiar with that area. The tract to the south of this, you see the hatched area, the blue hatched area, that is the subject property. Property just to the south of that or adjacent to it is the blue site. That is community shopping as well. And that's owned by the applicant, and he's looking to purchase this property to the north and expand that CS district to this property for his business and for his business use. As with any zoning, of course, with it being community shopping, you look at all the uses within that community shopping district in your consideration. With that said, the planning board has reviewed this request. Planning board does recommend approval. We have posted this property with a sign. We've mailed notices to the adjacent property owners, and we've also advertised in the paper as well. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
did you get any, what kind of feedback, if any, did you get?
I didn't receive any on this side.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I might. It's not within the jurisdiction of Pikeville?
It is not. The, this area, because of the school, it was zoned And so the ETJ of Pikeville kind of circles around that zoning area.
Oh, really?
So if you look at the zoning map, it almost looks like a bite mark out of the ETJ of Pikeville.
Okay, all right.
Around that area. If you look at the very bottom of the screen, actually, you see the, I don't know if it's still called Countryside Living, but the center there, that is actually in their city limit, to the left. That one right there, yep, that's actually in their city limits. So
Yeah, I knew it was
very
close.
close. It is very close.
Well, okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I've talked to several of the town officials in Pikeville, and the ones I've talked to, I've not talked to all of them, but I've talked to a couple of them. They do not have any opposition because, it's going to possibly create a few more jobs, not many, but, by them wanting to expand, it could very possibly lead into a few more jobs. So, but like I said, I have not talked to all of them, but I talked to a couple of them.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, if everybody's finished, I'd like to make a motion that we accept.
We got to have a public hearing.
Oh, this is a public hearing, I'm sorry. Thank you, appreciate it.
Anyone from the audience wish to speak before this board?
Public hearings.
I want to hear my close to the public hearing.
Now, am I ready? Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the request zoning changes as presented.
Motion been made, any discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public hearing number 2 is to receive public comments on a request to rezone 29.05 acres of land near the intersection of Ruskin Road and Sleepy Creek Road, identified as tax parcels 258, 59, 38, 239, and 259, 50, 20034 from residential agriculture 20 to heavy industrial in the Brogdon Township. And I'll throw it back over to Barry.
This request, as mentioned, is for a little over 29 acres. Again, it's from RA 20, which is a agricultural residential district, to heavy industrial. The applicant is Georgia Pacific. If you look at the map on the screen here, you see the heavy industrial, light industrial, the kind of the gray and the green areas. That is all Georgia Pacific. The area that's kind of highlighted with red with the hatched areas there, that is the area they're requesting rezoning. It is property that they currently own. The road to the right there is Ruskin Road. The road across the north side of the property is Sleepy Creek. And so that is the location of the areas that they're requesting rezoning. The planning board did review this request and recommended approval. We did actually post signs, and as we discussed earlier, Commissioner Cromartie, of course, those signs appear to be missing at this point. I did this morning have somebody go out there and check to see if we could find those signs, if they were just laid down or just what, and those signs cannot be found. So apparently they have disappeared. But they were posted. One was posted on Sleepy Creek Road, and one was posted on Ruskin Road for this request. I believe there is a representative also should be here from Georgia Pacific to answer any questions. But again, since this is a rezoning to heavy industrial, you're looking at all the uses, of course, in the ordinance for heavy industrial, not any particular one use. You have to consider all. So with that said, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I think one of the main things that and you just made it clear, is that they already own this property.
They do, that's correct.
Okay.
And are there anyone here from the community of the Ruston Road, Sleepy Creek area? Okay, behind you, I don't know whether this is appropriate, but right behind you, there are some folk here. Is this time for them to make a comment, Mr. Chairperson?
Through.
I'm done, yes,
Any
sir.
commissioner have anything to ask Barry before you ask public comment?
And just
Well-
one thing, the planning board and your department did thoroughly go through it and look at all the pros and cons on this decision.
They did, the planning board did, and now the planning board did comment that, of course, what their recommendation, they're not privy, of course, to public comment, to
Right.
neighboring concern, but in terms of the request itself, they did review that, and they did look at that in detail.
Well, Mr. Chairperson, and I'm not sure what question some of the community might have, but and I think, Barry, I may have asked you this before, heavy industry sounds like it has a wide range of opportunity for heavy industry. And there are some residential property, there's some residential houses in that area. And I can't help but think of the larger area, what level of heavy transportation would be in that area? What, it's heavy industry, yes.
Right.
And what would the public expect to see as far as more heavy equipment and trucks and so forth moving about that area down there? Because anyone who lives down there knows there's a lot of pulpwood trucks already. And there's some already, the industrial park is down there, so there's quite a bit of heavy traffic in that area already. And I don't know whether we should connect the dots or not, but I see there's another public hearing coming up about rezoning another piece of property. It's even larger than that one, and consequently adding more traffic to that area. So I would be interested for the public to hear what would be the volume of traffic expected to increase and what would be expected to be stored on that property that could have an impact on the greater area.
Right. Right, and what I'll speak to is basically the ordinance itself in terms of the variety of uses that are allowed. The applicant may be able to provide more detail in terms of what they're specifically, requesting, but based on the ordinance and the heavy industrial, as you mentioned, that's a wide range. It could be storage of equipment, it could be parking, not just for vehicles, but for large equipment, large trucks. It could be structure. Addition of a structure, a commercial or actually industrial type of a structure. Got a wide range there, of potential impact. And then in terms of traffic, of course, with any sort of expansion, of a business, you would expect that there could be an impact on traffic. If the applicant looks at putting an access onto Ruskin Road or one of the other roads in the area, to provide parking or an access, that of course could have an impact on the current traffic volumes on those roads as well. And depending on the type of vehicles they have, and in their business case, it may be large trucks, you may see an increase in the large trucks, on some of those roads because of that. But there is that potential, based on the ordinance, that you could have a wide range of not just structural addition, but parking, traffic, storage, all sorts of things. Like I said, the applicant would be able to tell you more detail in terms of what their actual plans are, but in terms of the ordinance, it's a wide range of uses that could potentially go there.
Was this the gentleman from GP over here?
Yes, sir.
Can he come up so we can ask that question?
Thank you, Commissioners. Rick Kimball, Georgia Pacific. We really don't have any plans immediately for this property, but we can't do anything with it unless it is rezoned to heavy industrial. One of the things that we are looking at all of our sites across the country is basically just redoing the housekeeping. A lot of things, a lot of these facilities have been here for many, many years. A lot of things have changed from a technology standpoint. So from a safety standpoint, we are looking at redoing the footprint, a lot of times rerouting traffic so that the employees are not exposed to as much truck traffic, that sort of thing. It's possible that we could do an expansion of our site. If you know that facility, it's a pretty large facility. It's a plywood and lumber facility. Has about 400 and something employees there. If we did anything to the site, it would be immediately where the site already is and is already zoned. So the peripheral access that we are looking at is mostly for parking, redoing access, and it's like I said, trying to reroute some of our traffic to give a little bit more of a safety presence to our current employees.
Do you see any impact on the local neighbors that are, and there's not many, but there are a few obviously because they're sitting out here?
I don't know if I can answer that. I mean, it's already an industrial complex,
I know,
and there's
I've
a
been
lot
there
of activity
many times.
going there. So I don't know how that would change.
I'm sorry, Bill, I missed your question.
I was asking if it would it have an impact on the local residents with additional traffic or?
Well, if you put the map back up, I think Brewington comes off of Old Mount Olive Highway. Ruskin Road runs maybe north and south, and then you got Sleepy Creek Road.
Right.
So that's sort of a square. And my concern was already this truck traffic that's down there. And that's what I hear about, is the truck traffic that's already down there. And it's a two-lane highway. Old Mount Olive Highway is, and Brewington is a two-lane, and Ruskin is 2 lanes, and Sleepy Creek is 2 lanes.
Right.
And there are residences down there. I would like to hold any other thought I have and hear from the residents that's down there, if that's appropriate.
Yeah, and the one thing I can tell you is these roads, I don't know what the current statutes are for heavy haul trucks and things like that, but mostly what we would be looking at is employee vehicles accessing and going in and out of those roads. So to give them a better access off of that, out of the complex.
So it needs to be changed to heavy industry for passenger vehicles just to park the cars?
I'm not sure the answer to that. I know for us to be able to use that property as a continuation of our complex, it would need to be heavy industrial.
And that means heavy equipment. Because I want the public to understand what the level of heavy equipment is and what the potential is. So that's I'll hold any other thought.
Mr. Chairman.
If you're finished, I'd like to hear from the residents.
Yeah. Am I correct in if we do change the zoning of this, if you decide to build, Georgia Pacific decides to build or use it for heavy equipment, or build a building that be used for heavy equipment, don't we have to approve any improvements that he makes? I mean, can we change the zoning and still have some control over what he does with, Georgia Pacific does with the property? That's what I'm saying.
Now, if it's, if it's rezoned to heavy industrial, then he has the right to go in and do anything within that heavy industrial district, within those uses. It would not come back to this board or any further review. We would require on our end a site plan for stormwater, things like that, but in terms of any further review, once that heavy industrial is approved, it gives him basically the right to go in and do any of those permitted uses at any given time.
Okay. Thank you.
And just to wrap up, let me just be very clear. We do not have any immediate plans to use that property. This is just something that we are just trying to get done so that if we have future plans for expansion or rerouting, this piece is already done, so that helps.
Any other members of the audience like to speak?
Morning, gentlemen, everybody. My name is Edward Ray Sutton. I live at 779 Ruskin Road. My telephone number is 919-734-4505. My major concern was, it's already Georgia Pacific is already light duty. So why switch it to heavy duty if they're not planning on building something big in that place? it's already light, heavy duty, so if they plan on putting a building or anything else, why wouldn't it remain light industry instead of heavy industry? My other concern is Georgia Pacific recently bought that land. They haven't owned it for 5, 10 years. They just recently, within the last 3 years, I'm quite sure, purchased all that that proposed track they plan on in building industry. But like he said, once you make that decision, they can do anything they want to on that property. They can expand it, put larger buildings in there. How we know we're not going to bring a paper mill in there if they rezone it to heavy duty? My major concern is not only the traffic. We live on that road. We don't see a lot of traffic coming through there. Most of that traffic is the trucks are on the Brewington side. But they rezone it, then they give them access for all the heavy-duty trucks that come through our area on our side of the road. So that is my main concern, is that once you give them leeway, what do we know they're not going to put up there? They said they don't have any specific goals now, but what about 2 years from now or 3 years from now? What are they going to do, put up on that building and the heavy-duty equipment? So that's my main concern, is not only that, with the property value of our houses go down because of the increased traffic. We live in a quiet neighborhood now, but once you rezone it, guess what's going to happen? We're going to have more and more people, and they're going to enlarge their people. That means, I know more jobs will probably come, but also you've got that more traffic on that road, and when they reroute that road, when they're having construction, you can't hardly get out of your driveway because of all the big trucks coming through and increase employees. That is my main concern. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Good morning. We are Jarvis and Gloria Sutton. We reside at 825 Ruskin Road. Our number is 919-734-7908. We're here this morning to echo some of the concerns of Mr. Sutton. We live on the southernmost part of Ruskin Road, down from the proposed property. We've lived there for over 40 years. In those years, we've seen a lot of changes in our community. Some of them not so good, like traffic, increasing, speeding. We've tried to get, through the Department of Transportation, since it's a state road, we've tried to get speed limit signs, we've tried to get littering signs, to no avail. When Georgia Pacific purchased this land down from us, we heard a lot of rumors about, what they were going to do with the land, and what we could expect. But today, we came to see if we could get something solid as to what they're planning on doing with that property. Like Mr. Sutton said, our fear is that those log trucks are going to start coming through our area. On Old Mount Olive Highway right now, those log trucks are backed up. They impede traffic. We have a neighbor that drives school buses, and when school gets out, they can't really get through there. The trucks have to pull off on the side of the road to let the school buses through. And we're just afraid that being approved for heavy industrial, we're not really getting that much information from the representative from Georgia Pacific, and that's what we thought we were going to hear today. Someone that could tell us definitely what was going to happen with that property. Like was said, we have a quiet community. Everybody knows everybody. that increased traffic, if it's my concern or our concern is that the log trucks are gonna start using our road to alleviate some of that traffic on Old Mount Up Highway, or build, like Mr. Sutton said, something bigger like a paper mill or something that's gonna impact our community. So that's our concerns. We didn't get a whole lot of information that we thought we were gonna get, but we just, want to implore you all to consider rezoning this land for heavy industrial traffic. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Just one follow-up, if I may. We don't have a lot of information because we honestly don't have any plans for that property. Again, this was just a formality for us to try to get the rezoning done. And I think it's 29 acres. With all due respect, you're not going to put any kind of structure or certainly not a paper mill on that size of a parcel. We personally are not going to do anything that's going to impede with our wood basket that we get the logs from, so we're not looking for any other industry or facility that's going to be, that would compete against that. So I apologize, I don't have more information, but quite honestly, we just don't have any use for it at this point. It's just trying to get it done. So, thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? If not, we'll close the public hearing.
We don't have to act on this today, do we?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the rezoning. As stated.
Motion is made. Any further discussion from this board?
Mr. Chairman, I might not be very popular for what I'm fixing to say, but it needs to be said. This county spends thousands and thousands and probably hundreds of thousands of dollars recruiting new industry. Here we have an existing industry that wants to expand and possibly create more jobs. I can certainly understand the feelings of the residents that live close by, but sometimes we have a tendency to overlook our existing industry, and I think we really need to consider this. But also, we may need to approach DOT and see what can be done, if anything can be done, to solve part of the traffic problem. If they hadn't been asked, if you don't ask, you're not going to receive. So, we probably need to check with DOT and see what or if anything can be done to relieve some of the traffic, because this is a large facility and it's very vital to Wayne County. Georgia Pacific pays a lot of tax in Wayne County, and I just feel like that we need to work with our existing industry as much as we do try to recruit new industry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the concept that we're looking for industry. I also appreciate the concept that we need to protect our neighborhoods. And now it's clear that the families who have spoken have been in that area for 40 years. And unless evidence is to refute it, the gentleman said that he was aware that this property had been bought in the last 3 years. If the zone was agriculture when it was purchased, then the purchaser was aware that they would have to get it rezoned to be able to add anything else in that area that wasn't similar to what was already there. And I appreciate the fact that one would say that they understood how the neighbors felt, but we would go ahead and do it anyway. That's what this kind of a process is in place for, is to give folk who already have heavily invested their homes and their life in a neighborhood so it doesn't be upended. I have seen us on this board deny requests for rezoning because it might add traffic. If you all will recall, there was having to do with gaming. Several meetings back, it was determined that it was going to bring more traffic into the neighborhood and noise. Now, the gentleman, thank you, sir, for being very candid. You don't know what's going to happen down there. You just want to have that changed. I respect the fact that big business tends to be very thorough in their determination as to what they're going to invest in. But we already know that the families have invested their lives and their homes in it. I would like to amend the motion that was put in place to say that we will not act any further on this until, number one, we can be assured that not just the residents that's here this morning, but the other residents that's in that general area, and not necessarily just on that street. There's got to be a consideration for the amount of traffic that's going to be increased down there. Now, I use that area a fair amount, coming over to Brogdon Primary School and back down Old Mount Olive Highway, getting back to Mount Olive. And the log traffic is already heavy down there. And folk don't need to be surprised by what can additionally be added. It's a safety factor also, just like talk about school buses. The more traffic you put in an area, the more likely that a bad accident is going to happen. About 20 years ago, at least that amount, but there was a horrible accident at where Southern Wayne Road comes out. The more heavy trucks you put in down there and at the speed that they're going, it's going to be a competition with young people driving vehicles. So I can't not be concerned about that. And so I thank the folk in that neighborhood for coming up and voicing their opinion. And I ask that I don't know, I don't want to mislabel what I want, but I would like for it to be tabled until there can be further discussion and investigation. And maybe some more information from Georgia Pacific as to what their real long-range plans are. So it's one thing for cars to be coming in and out. There's another thing for tractor trailers with logs and other items, containers or whatever they might put out there. I just envision that there could be large containers put down there because we haven't heard. It's all about wondering what it is, so we need to have more information.
Mr. Mayor?
Barry, I have a question. It's residential agriculture right now, right?
That's right.
What does that entail? Is that the same as light industry?
Oh, no. Residential agriculture is a residential district. It's a residential zoning district, so you can do, and then of course the RA 20, that's the size lot, so 20,000 square foot lots basically you could do in that zoning district. So no, RA 20 would be more of a residentially oriented district.
Okay, so there is another level called light industrial, not heavy industrial.
That's right. There is light industrial.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so in order for Georgia Pacific to say use this as a parking lot, the zoning would still have to be changed from where it's at. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. Well, I agree. I agree that maybe looking at tabling, but what I would suggest is to maybe look at improving light industrial. That way, that they won't be able to move any real heavy industrial equipment. And as far as traffic patterns are concerned, being in business myself on a smaller scale, small business person, traffic patterns can be changed by the company officials without any change in property zoning or anything. That's something that they can do internally to rearrange traffic. So I'm just saying, maybe we need to look at the minimum zoning at this time, rather than heavy industrial.
Mr. Chairman. Can't believe I agree with Ed, but I do. I came here hoping that GP could tell us what they're going to use the property for, and I share their concerns. And that's why I think it needs to be tabled to him. He may not, you may not know, but somebody at Georgia Pacific knows they wouldn't have bought this property otherwise. And I just like a clarification on that issue before I go ahead with voting in a positive manner to go ahead and move forward. And I am big on jobs. That's what I spent my life doing. But we can wait 2 weeks to find something out like that, I think. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I certainly don't have a problem with tabling it for a couple of weeks. I mean, in fact, that probably needs to be done. But we keep talking about the traffic and all. Just keep in mind, this piece of property is no different from the industrial park at Mount Olive or the two that we've got up here at Goldsboro. Anytime you got a large industry or a industrial park, you're going to have truck traffic. You can't move it without a truck. You can you can move it on a train, but you got to put it on a truck to get it to a train. I mean, regardless of what we say, the traffic, I'm not saying we don't have a problem, but, you can't have your cake and eat it too sometimes. I mean, if you're going to have industry, regardless of whether it's in an industrial park or isolated, kind of like Georgia Pacific is, you're going to have truck traffic, and there's no way around it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I do want to point everyone's attention. Could we get this map put back up here? I do want to point out that the actual adjoining property that's currently owned by Georgia Pacific is actually, that touches this, adjoins it, is actually heavy industry. So it is actually the light industry zoning, where it almost looks like most of the plant is on the light industry. So I'm not so sure that it makes a whole lot of difference one way or the other, whether or not it's zoned light industry or heavy industry, but the adjoining property to this tract that we're rezoning is actually heavy industry. Just wanted to point that out.
I would like to ask the gentleman from Georgia Pacific, the light industry that he's speaking of, is that out there in the open parking, in the area where some of the lumber is stacked up at, and the heavy is back in there where all the machines are working? It's been several years since I've toured that, but just looking at where heavy industry is, that looks like it ought to be back in there where all the machinery is, where all the processing is done. Is that correct?
I'm not sure why it was divided like that, to be quite honest. I don't know what the history of this property is. Most of our facilities are required to be zoned heavy industrial, so I don't know why the light industrial, but the line actually intersects the complex pretty much. If you see the round circle just to the upper part right there, that would be the log yard for the plywood facility, I believe, and then just north of that is the log yard for the lumber facility. So I'm not sure why it's divided like that, to be honest with you. I don't think that answers your question, but I
can tell you why.
Yeah.
Okay, please.
The zoning in that area is so old.
It's so old.
It's been in place for so long. It was done prior to the use of computers, and they relied solely on tax maps, which were not as accurate at the time when that zoning was put in place. It was in the 60s, early 70s. So,
but am I correct that the majority of the plant appears to be in the light?
That's right.
Light industry. I remember when I was touring the plant, it appears as if the sawmill and all is there in light industry.
Bulk of it is.
The gentleman's raising his hand back here, Mr. Chairman.
My question is, if the representative from Georgia Pacific don't even know what this is, how do we expect him to go forward into telling us what it is? He should know I mean, he should know. My brother, how long you worked there? About 26 years. And if, like I said, the representatives don't know, how you expect us, the general public, to know what he got?
I apologize. I obviously was not prepared to have a specific plan in mind, but I mean, at this point, I mean, I can tell you with all clarity and all sincerity that there is no plan for that property. I understand the concern of what possibly could happen, but right now, what we are trying to do is basically to acquire buffer zone property so that we can just kind of get the compaction of the actual facility loosened up a little bit so that we've got more safety zones for the employees and that type of thing. But as far as future plans, we don't have any to be able to declare at this point.
Mr. Chairman, in the essence of time, I would suggest that since it's clear that there's not anything definitive that it's going to be used for, then maybe this could be brought back up when there was more definitive answers about what it was going to be used for, and it could be brought back before this board at some future time.
Motion to table 2 weeks. Which is an amendment to my motion. Right.
This is the first.
Vote on amendment first.
Yeah, the amended motion by Commissioner Cromartie. All those in favor of Cromartie's amended motion, please raise your right hand. Those opposed? You sure you get your exercise in?
Do what now?
Make sure you get your exercise in.
I hear you.
Thank you.
Have this on our agenda for in 2 weeks. Yes, sir, for discussion.
Mr. Chairman.
Possible.
Mr. Honeycutt, can I make a recommendation? I think we probably need Mark Pope here at the next meeting.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Will we be notified of the next meeting on this?
We actually putting it
Yeah,
on the agenda
it'll
for
be 2 weeks
next.
from our November 5th.
November 5th.
Yes, sir,
Okay.
at 9 a.m.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Now it's the third part of the Berry Show.
It's the third part of the Berry Show. Number 3, public hearing to receive public comments on a request to rezone 5.93 acres of land on Mitchell Farm Road, identified as tax parcels 267-165-2340, 267-165-6381, 267-165-8390, and 267-175-1296 from community shopping to residential agriculture in the Fort Township.
All right, with that said, I'll jump right into it here. Again, it is from a request from community shopping to RA20. If you look on the map here, you see 70 bypass to the south and Mitchell Farm Road, which kind of runs parallel to 70 bypass. You see the CS zoning that runs there along the north side of Mitchell Farm Road. Behind this property, you see there's a subdivision, Magnolia, with quite a few homes that are developed there. This piece, of course, is between Mitchell Farm and Magnolia subdivision. The actual property owner actually still has some of the lots in Magnolia subdivision that they are selling, but they're wanting to take this property along the frontage and do residential instead of shopping or community shopping for that. There actually are 2 corner lots that are part of the rezoning, or actually 2 lots that are part of Magnolia that they're looking to sell, but of course, until it's residential, a house cannot be permitted on those 2 lots. And then the remaining property, kind of to the left and the right, the sort of the larger pieces on the Mitchell Road, Farm Road frontage, they're looking to do some additional residential properties there as well. This did go to the planning board. The planning board did recommend approval of this. We have posted signs on the property, and we have mailed out notices, and we did advertise in the paper. as required. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Well, Barry, before the new bypass, what zoning was this property before?
Prior to the bypass, it was not zoned.
It was not, that's right, not zoned, okay.
Mr. Chairman, did you get any feedback, yay or nay on this?
Well, not really nay or yay, but I did receive several calls from folks asking what the rezoning was. They had seen the sign or received a notice and just asked for more information, but I didn't receive any comments one way or the other in favor or opposed, just what the request is.
Any questions, comments from the audience? Okay.
Susan Whitley. This is my mother's estate, and I'm handling it. But anyway, we very much want to rezone this residential because I wouldn't want to do anything commercial. It's just backed right up to that neighborhood. And I think that would just be wrong to do that. Backs up to people's yards.
Thank you for being considerate.
Close the hearing, I make a motion.
Public hearing is now closed.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I make a motion that we approve this recommendation from the planning board.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you. Now we're going to recess and go into Board of Adjustment meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are now into the Board of Adjustment meeting with the Board of Commissioners. We have a public hearing scheduled. Number one, to receive public comments on a request for special use permits S1903 Ramp Solar Energy Facility and S1904 Wedge Solar Energy Facility. And both properties are located in the Sawston Township off A.B. Barnes Road in Goldsboro. I'll turn it again to the Berry Show.
Or swear in.
All right, this is, as mentioned, as a, oh, yes, sir. I do. All right, this is a request for special use for actually two solar farms. They're actually adjacent to each other. One's called Ramp Solar, one is Wedge Solar. So when you see those names, and we'll look at the aerial map right here. If you'll scroll up that way. Perfect, thank you. And you see Ramp Solar is the yellow on the left, Wedge Solar is the red on the right. And this is location. You see A.B. Barnes Road, that comes off of Hare Road and sort of as a service road that was put in when the bypass was built. And so you can see it's back kind of off of A.B. Barnes Road. The applicant has requested two separate applications, special use applications for this site. They're looking at it from their standpoint as two different sites. There'll be, I guess, a fence line down the middle. They'll be separated by a fence. But you can see A.B. Barnes, kind of where it comes in on Hare Road, there'll be an access for Ramp Solar there. When you go to the end of A.B. Barnes Road, there'll be the access for Wedge Solar there for that site. Both sites, of course, are going to be, the applicant for both sites is Strata Solar. There are representatives here from the company to actually respond as well later on. This is in the airspace control surface area for Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. Of course, that's the reason why it's coming before you as a special use. Any solar farm that's within Seymour Johnson's area, we do have them go through the special use process. We did send notice to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. We received back comments, and they were all positive. They saw no negative impacts with this site for their air operations. The planning board did review this request for both of these site plans, and for both, they did recommend approval to the Board of Adjustment. We did post the property with a sign, again, and we have mailed notices, and we've advertised in the newspaper as required also for this request. And I'm glad to answer any questions.
If you would kind of orientate me just a bit here, because is this Hare Road, the road that goes out to Salisbury Road?
It is, yes, sir.
No, it goes out to Wayne Memorial Drive.
Wayne Memorial Drive, okay.
It crosses over 70.
Okay.
It's where that sweepstakes place was.
Yep, okay. Thank you.
And there's,
It's kind of between Tommy's Road
Yeah, sure.
and Wayne
Okay,
Memorial.
now I'm oriented.
yeah.
Thank you.
I haven't heard anything positive or negative at all from over there.
One other question, that is the yellow, you've got one that's in yellow and one that's in red.
Right.
Which is which?
The yellow is ramp solar, red is wedge solar.
Wedge?
Yeah.
And for just information purposes, the yellow, which is ramp solar, is owned by the William E. Atkinson heirs, Mary W. Barnes and Beulah Barnes Kelly. The red, which is the wedge, is owned by Delano Dahl and James Edward Gerganus. So that's how that's kind of split up there with property owners and with the actual sites themselves.
And the current zoning on this will allow this?
It will, right. Most of the site's not zoned. There is an area along 70 bypass that's into community shopping, and that would allow for utility type business.
And didn't you tell me it was sort of wet in there, so there couldn't be any really?
Yeah, the soil types, when you look at the soil types, especially with some of the surrounding properties, the soil types are not well drained, let's just say.
So you wouldn't be building homes in there?
It'd be difficult to build a lot of homes, just to say.
Or any kind of community shopping there?
It's not the most suitable for septic
It's not
systems.
even being formed now, is it?
The what?
Did you say it was not being formed at present?
The, I don't believe the middle section, the cleared area there is being formed. And of course, everything around it, you see the natural vegetation all around it that surrounds it as well.
I think there's another solar site down the road on the right going east, but not on this picture. What I was making is just not a lot of uses for this property, really.
Mr. Chairman, really, the new bypass didn't enhance the value of this property. Because Hare Road does not have a excess on and off of the bypass, so it kind of isolates it.
In the public area. Yeah, see if anybody wants to.
Anyone from the audience wish to speak?
You to swear me in, or? Okay, thank you. It's good to be back in Wayne County. My name is Tom Terrell. I'm an attorney with the firm Fox Rothschild. I represent both Wedge and Ramp Solar, which are wholly owned subsidiaries of Strata Solar. Strata Solar is a homegrown North Carolina company that has become one of the largest renewable clean energy companies in the United States. They do it right. They've earned that reputation. The development agent for Strata is here today, Mr. Rex Young. He can answer quite a few questions. As you just heard, the only reason we're really here is because of proximity to Seymour Johnson, and Seymour Johnson has already signed off. Additionally, this board, in several previous occasions, has already made the finding, and you've heard all the explanations as to why solar farms do not harm health and safety. There is no emission into the air, no emission into the streams or into the soil. It is old, tried and true technology. Almost everything out there is recyclable. It does not generate traffic, and you are not going to have studies that show that they harm property values. In fact, there have been hundreds of studies now showing that they don't have a negative impact to property values, and that's because they're quiet, they don't generate dust, and they're dark at night, etc. The questions that we start to get when we go to different communities is, but how will it be buffered? And in a moment, I'm going to ask our civil engineer, Mr. Spaeth, to come up and address that. But before I do, I would like to address two things that Commissioner Aycock has said this morning previously. First thing that Mr. Aycock said was, when you deal with the opioid crisis and you have to buy Narcan, you have to have income to pay for it. You have to have a tax base. And then a moment ago, Mr. Aycock also mentioned how much money you spend to try to get your tax base raised in the county. Last May, it was a total shock to every solar developer that I work with. There was an independent study from a nonprofit in Raleigh that looked at the tax base effect of solar farms. And it went to every single community in North Carolina and found every farm they could identify, and they looked at what the income was to the county from that property when it was almost in every case under an agricultural or a timber exemption. And those payments to the county are very low. And then it looked at, and all that's public record, it's just a time-consuming job to find. And then it looked at every single one of those tracts and what they were paying to the county in that first full year of full taxation under an operating solar farm. The difference was, on average, a 2,000% increase for those tracts of land. That's going to the county, a 2,000% increase, and that's after you factor in the required statutory ad valorem tax abatement. In addition to that, you also have a 3-year recapture for all of that land, and that is, in every case that I'm aware of, that's paid by the company. That's not paid by the individual, that's paid by the solar company. So I just thought that would be a fact that would be worth making here. I'd like for Mr. Spaeth to hand up, he has some site plans that illustrate what the buffers are in this case. This site is one of the most the best naturally buffered sites that you will otherwise see. But in addition to those natural buffers, Strata is, go ahead, if you would just, could you pass those out, Jeremy? Strata has also planted some additional buffers that you will see. Here, I'll help you if that way. I got to share some of these.
Jeremy Spaeth, civil engineer at Strata Solar and licensed professional engineer, state of North Carolina. So as Tom said, there's the site itself is fairly well naturally buffered. Of course, the northern side is the 70 bypass. But additional to that, we will be planting, per the ordinance, 25-foot double staggered buffer along both the north and western sides of ramp. And then on Wedge, additional buffer along the north side as well. Obviously, the sides that are butted up against each other, it'll be, the fence line and for one project and fence line for another project set back off the property line. But then the rest of the parcels are fully wooded and not currently developed. Be happy to answer any other questions about the site or any makeup of the site or construction questions.
Mr. Chairman, if I might inquire.
Yep.
Maybe my eyes are not looking at this correctly. Are you saying that there would actually be a perimeter chain link fence around the entire track?
Yes, for both of them. So for instance, for ramp, there will be a chain link fence around the entire perimeter. And then on the ramp side as well, chain link fence around the perimeter.
Mr. Chairman, that is a county requirement, isn't it, Mr.?
That's what I'm thinking, that's kind of
Mr. Gray?
Yes, it was just kind of hard to see it on
With
the colored one.
the aerial, it's, the black and white one's better to look
Yeah,
at the details.
black and white
of
was
it.
definitely shows better.
Yeah.
If you don't have further questions, I'd like to introduce Mr. Nicholas Kirkland, whose company has done many of those several hundreds of market impact studies. And I'll ask Nick to come up, you need to be sworn in, and keep it on the high side, the high level.
I do. Hi, my name is Nick Kirkland. I'm a trainee appraiser with Kirkland Appraisals. I've worked there for 4.5 years. Personally, I've worked on over 550 of the solar farms that we've researched and looked at across the country. I'd say about 80% of those have been from North Carolina. I've spoken and been tendered an expert witness in over 3 dozen hearings just like this. Of the solar farms that we've looked at, what we've done is we've kept track of what's next to them. Are they typically in agricultural or residential areas, industrial areas? And then we compare that to each proposed solar farm site, just like this. What we found is that solar farms in the Wayne County and the surrounding counties are typical of what we've seen across the country. They're normally in rural residential areas where most of the adjoining uses are agricultural, timber, cropland, and low-density residential housing. It is my professional opinion that the proposed solar farm will be a harmonious use in its location. To determine if a solar farm has an impact on the adjoining property values, we do something called a matched pair analysis. What we do is we compare a sale of a home that occurred next to a solar farm with a similar property or home that sold that was not adjacent to the solar farm in order to measure for any difference. We actually have the solar farm, the AM Best Solar Farm here in Goldsboro. That's right up there off the Spring Garden subdivision. It's just to the west of this site. There was homes in that subdivision that were being built adjacent to the solar farm, with similar homes in the same subdivision that sold that were not adjacent to the solar farm, selling within 5 cents per square foot. We take this to mean that the homes that sold that were adjacent to the solar farm were the same homes, same floor plan, in the same neighborhood that were not adjacent to the solar farm were selling for the same price per square foot. Based on 2 dozen matched pairs just like that one, it is our conclusion that there is no impact to adjoining property values. And it is my professional opinion that the proposed solar farm will not impact adjoining property values. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Chairman, this is kind of not relevant to it, but I've had a hard time convincing our board and some of the citizens in Wayne County they are solar facilities, not solar farms. You can't grow anything on a solar panel. So for your best interest, it's a solar facility.
I'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
Quite true.
Anyone else?
Thank you. That concludes our presentation.
Is there any public comment? No public comments? Yeah, close. You're close. Can we act on this today?
Yes, sir. And you want to act on the second.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, make the motion to move on the first track and approve it as presented.
Motion is made. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand.
Similarly, I'll make the motion on the second track that we approve and move forward.
Heard the motion, any discussion? No discussion, all in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you. Your board of adjustment now adjourned and reconvene. Board of Commissioners.
And next on our agenda is the consent agenda, which we went over in detail during our pre-meeting before at 8 o'clock.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda as amended.
Motion been made to accept consent agenda. Is any discussion? No discussion, all in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you.
And we have a Catch a Glimpse video this month from Public Affairs, so I'll turn that over to Carol.
This is Catch a Glimpse for October 2019, produced by Wayne County Public Affairs. This month we cut the ribbon and opened the John M. Bell Community Corrections Building in Goldsboro. And patrons at the fair helped Curtis Media Group fill the Jeep with animal supplies that were then donated to the Wayne County Animal Shelter. We covered the Wayne County Agricultural Luncheon and also helped spread the word about reading between the wines coming to Wayne County. We stopped by the kitchen with Michelle Estrada and learned how to make peanut stir fry. And also stopped by the garden with Jessica Strickland and learned how to plant bulbs this fall. And to wrap things up, we finished our project in cooperation with the Wayne County Public Library on the history of local barbecue. That's Catch a Glimpse, produced by Wayne County Public Affairs. We'll see you next month.
And thank you, Chairman. And I did want to start off by saying, number one, I want to thank Public Affairs for the work that they've done on the history of barbecue video in Wayne County. If you have not seen it, Mr. Aycock was there at the Grand View last Thursday night. His wife even had some comments and was part of the video. We appreciated her participation as well. But it was as well done a video, and I think there's some minor edits that still have to be done. But if you get a chance to see it, you'll be very proud of the work that our staff has done. But also, it is the most interesting thing that I've seen in a long time about Wayne County. We had patrons there that wanted to buy copies of the video for Christmas. So it was that well and professionally done. So hats off to Public Affairs and also the library for the work done on that.
And they'll let us know when it's ready?
We will let you know when it's ready and make sure that everybody, but we'll promote the full out of it. So, but it was really, really well done. The second thing I did want to mention is I wanted to thank Commissioner Daughtry and Commissioner Mayo for our trip yesterday to Onslow County as we looked with staff and looked at their DSS and consolidated facility. We worked with our architect. I think we've got some good ideas, and I think we'll be able to move that project further down the line now, so we have a better understanding from both sides of what the expectations are and what our needs are. So that went really well, and I just want to thank everybody for attending that. And I also wanted to remind you, our jail feasibility study with Mosley is now scheduled for Thursday, October 24th at 9:30 a.m. And again, that's the kickoff to begin looking at options and long-term planning for our jail facilities. And that is all I have at this time. October 24th at 9:30. Here in the Commissioner's Chambers.
Commissioner Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, we all attended the presentation dedication of the probation and parole in honor of Commissioner Bell. That was a really heartwarming, well-deserved, Mr. Bell, well-deserved. Also attended the chamber luncheon, agricultural luncheon at the Maxwell Center that's already been mentioned. Also this week attended a jail breakfast. You know, I hadn't been to one in a while. I think each one of us commissioners ought to make a point to go as often as we can to the jail breakfast. The judges are there, the sheriff's department, everybody concerned with law enforcement. There was a lot of information shared that morning that I wasn't aware of. You find out what's going on inside of these circles, you know, judges' chambers, wherever. So that was a good experience. Yesterday, as the county managers already mentioned, Onslow County, man, they got one heck of a DSS building. That's all I can tell you. But the key is it was very informative to me. If we don't have enough information now to move forward with our architectural study, we're in bad shape, because the information was overwhelming. I think you're exactly right, Craig. We've got enough information now. We should bring this on through and get this moving, because it is lagging behind, as we all know, and get this thing done. We want to do it right the first time, I understand, but I think we've got enough information we can go for it. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Carney.
Just want to share that I attended a Board of Health committee meeting, and of course I had an opportunity to hear Mr. Madden's make presentations about the East Point project and all that. So it's good to be involved in things that East Point is promoting. I heard Mr. Bell speak of a long relationship with East Point, so it's good to see that there are always opportunities for interaction with that group. That's all I have this morning, sir.
Commissioner Doherty.
You might have seen me thumbing through there. The bad thing about the internet is you'll see something and then all of a sudden you can't find it again. But it was interesting to see that the Wayne County Development Alliance posted that of the 125 largest privately owned companies, number 15 is in Wayne County. Goldsboro Milling, number 15. That's astonishing. And so a shout out to them. They are a great neighbor and community-minded company here in Wayne County. I want to talk a little bit about my experience that I've had in being a team member of the Committee on Redistricting. And last night, our committee came to some conclusions and left open the door for us to revisit some of our redistricting, in that the study has found that in Wayne County, we have neglected to keep up with building facilities in our schools. There might have been some 30-some-odd years in which there's a gap there. And this can't be solved overnight. It's a huge problem. I think the estimates were a couple of $100 million of facility needs. A couple of $100 million. And it's almost like the issue is so large that it's almost hard to even fathom. That said, we are going to have to address at some point our facilities. We have one of the oldest middle schools in the entire state in our county. I mean, we're talking about 4 or 5 generations have gone to that particular school. And it's been highlighted across the state. And we're going to have to address that in our coming years. It's something that has been put off and put off. So one of the recommendations was to ask the school board to actually develop a specific plan to address their facility needs. We need a specific plan, one, and then we need a plan on some method of financing that plan. So it's not just a matter of a wish list saying, I need all of this. It's a matter of, let's put it in order, and let's also come up with a plan of how to fund that, those facility needs. Additionally, we all can agree that there is an issue in regards to diversity within our inner city schools. In our central attendance area, we've got an issue there. But as I told the committee, you can't force people to actually move or to send their child to this school or go take that job or do this or do that if forcing people is not the answer. What we have to do is to develop incentives. We have to find incentives. They address some of the issues in regards to Goldsboro High by moving the School of Engineering there. And today, you have to actually put your name in a hat, and there's a drawing in regards to what students can attend the School of Engineering. So the demand for going to an inner city school is greater than our ability to provide those spaces. So we really need to take a long look, and we've asked the school board to look at incentives as a method of addressing some of those diversity needs. Our board unanimously agreed that we would submit maps but not recommend any specific map to be voted on by the school board. We recognize the needs. We're hoping that the school board will take this matter up and will address it. We heard from the principal, I apologize, I'm taking a little time here, but we heard from the principal of Medellin. And I know we all are of the opinion school buildings do not educate children, and we all agree to that. But if you could only have heard how she described the students, the parents, the teachers, all have absolutely been encompassed with a spirit of pride in regards to those facilities. And the learning experience has been enhanced as a result of those new facilities. I'll hush. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Bill.
I don't have any committee meetings today, or this last 2 weeks, but I would like Commissioner Doherty to read my little note that I wrote to the commission.
To read it?
Yeah, you've been doing a pretty good job this morning.
I wanted to take a moment today to say what a thrilling moment it was for me to attend the unveiling of the newly renovated probation and parole building that you named after me the John M. Bell Building. It took me so completely by surprise. I had no idea that this was in the works and that my fellow commissioners were working on that. I've always known the commissioners were a good and caring group of people. Let's chuckle on that. And I was humbled and touched at such a wonderful gesture. I try to serve the people of my county to the best of my abilities, and I do so with no expectation of recognition. This gesture was not expected, but is greatly appreciated and has touched me a great deal. I just wanted to say thank you and let you know how much it means. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. And as I always say, before making any decisions, always count to 4. Commissioner John M. Bell.
Commissioner Gott.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things. I also attended the jail meeting. Also attended the military ball. Fantastic ball, great turnout, honoring our enlisted airmen at Seymour Johnson. And we had a couple of Marines there too. They slipped in. But they had some hiccups, but we got to commend Colonel Yates on the catering facility. Came up short-handed, and I've been to several functions at the Maxwell Center and some other facilities, and it's the first time that I've ever had captains and colonels and anybody else with a rank waiting on tables. He never hesitated. He instructed them to get up and go to work. One of the colonels that was sitting at the table with me and Linda actually got up and went in the kitchen and started washing dishes. But the enlisted people, they enjoyed their meal, waited on by their commanding officers, and I almost felt sorry for one of the young recruits. One of the young Arab ladies had only been in the Air Force a year and a half, and Colonel Yates singled her out and called her up to help him MC the meeting. The young lady was terrified. I mean, she was scared to death. But he made it special for the enlisted people at the military ball. And I also attended the upgrade meeting on our radio system, our 911 system. It's moving along. Had one little hiccup, but I think Chip and Barry now has got that straightened out, or working on getting it straightened out. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Respect.
One of my responsibilities of this board is I'm on the hospital board, and I spend more than equal time over there than I do here, so maybe I need my head examined while I'm there. That's all I'll say. Ag Luncheon, I was very proud to see the turnout of that. It was really, our community as a whole was out, and I was glad that the West family got recognized as the farming community, Farmers of the Year. I don't remember exactly what the term was. And that Marlo Ivy, who's doing a great job promoting agriculture in Wayne County, got recognized. The daughter of an old friend of mine. I'm so proud to see. I know Donna's happy. Can't wait to see the barbecue video. And could you bring up that brick program? I'd asked Carol last meeting, it's time for us to get back into selling some bricks. And can you tell them what y'all done for us, Carol?
Yes, sir. When you asked that we kind of revamp it, went back to the staff. Bria is the one that created this, and I sent her over ideas, and this is what she came up with, which was fabulous. And then utilizing our staff even more, Julio in mapping created small posters as well as some larger ones. So we're going to put it at the source. We're going to the Maxwell Center. It'll be on the 4 screens behind the receptionist when you first enter. We'll also have the stand up on an easel, and then we're going to put it in the farm services or cooperative extension area because we believe that that will serve well. And then the smaller posters will go in many places throughout the county. And it's going to be back on Channel 10. We take it off occasionally so it'll remain fresh, but this will be on there. And then our goal is to start getting out to different civic groups and maybe even make a presentation over at the city and things such as that.
I appreciate that so much. As far as commissioners, and I'm just as guilty, with the exception of June, I think you've got one out there. Guys, we need to buy a brick, whatever you want to put out there. And I'm going to do it. I promise you I'll do it when I get back in 2 weeks.
Well, while we're speaking of Maxwell Center, just wanted to throw in that we did win the convention.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
As well for the second year in a row.
Are they throwing in a barbecue pit named after
That
you?
that's coming. The barbecue pit's coming, but what we may do is get James to come to our next meeting, kind of give us an update on the award and some activities that are going on at Maxwell Center, and my barbecue pit.
That's all I.
Mr. Chairman, can you imagine what kind of awards the Maxwell Center is going to get once we get a facility next door where people can stay?
Yes, sir.
Just one thing, the Jeffries Building, I don't know who's doing what down there, but it looks good. I drove by, I think it was yesterday, and there's some outfit there pressure washing. It looks really good, really good. All right, so we're finished. Going back to closed session.
For the same reason.
Same reason. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand.